questions to make rebuttals on statements of any woman candidate in no more than 45 seconds. And candidates who violate their time allocations will be cautiously but firmly interrupted by the moderators. And finally, no clapping or booing during the debate. Thank you for your kind attention, and we look forward to a fruitful debate. And then, debaters, you may rise now as we proceed into the debate. And at this juncture, I will hand over to my co-moderator, Sekou Jame, to lead you into the session proper. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Co-Moderator. The debate now begins. And in line with the agreed format, the candidates will each make an opening statement in 90 seconds. We start with you, Mr. Farr.
Point of order. Is it allowed, is it permissible that we observe a bit of social distancing time so that I can take off my mask?
A point of correction for me, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks instead of 90 seconds.
And then the over request is granted. Mr. Salah can move to the next podium so we have a distance. Thank you.
Fellow Gambians, I am delighted to be here today to participate in this first presidential debate. My understanding is that all candidates were meant to participate in this event. Unfortunately, some saw it more advantageous to be out there campaigning, whilst their opponents have been made to believe that they will be here. I honored my word that I'll be here. I leave others to live with their conscience. I do wish to underline the importance of this debate, because it strengthens our democracy and it gives the people the opportunity to assess the candidates and make an informed choice as to who they will vote for president. Our country is at a crossroads. We are in very difficult times. And if we do not get it right, all the struggles of 2016, which led to the removal of former President GAMBIA, will come to naught. Already it is. In every sector in this country, we are witnessing a very steep decline. But worst of all, the ugly head of corruption is rearing its head again in this country, taking a very stranglehold in our governance infrastructure. If we do not tackle it,
you have 10 seconds.
If we don't tackle it, our country will be left languishing. That's why I'm running for president.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Farr.
For this country, we liberated ourselves on the 2nd of December 2016. We are now faced with the challenge that we should have recognized since we attained the right to self-determination and independence. That is to make our people sovereign and ensure that they take charge of the destiny of our homeland. We are here to try to shape that destiny so that our people would live in liberty and prosperity, so that the children will have a future, and our children's children will also have a future. That is what we are here to articulate today. I am convinced any leadership that is going to be competent to lead countries in the 21st century must have a mind that speaks the language of knowledge, must have a heart that speaks the language of love for country and people, and must have a conscience that speaks the language of truth and justice. This is what makes it possible to have integrity, to lead a people to their higher destiny. We achieve independence, aiming to build self-determined development. But now we are heavily indebted property, consigned to live on the basis of taxation, grants, and loans. This is not sustainable. We are here to carve a new path for system change.
Thank you, Mr. Sam. Thank you for your remarks. We now go to the first thematic area of the debate today, which is agriculture. And we are going to start with you, Mr. Sam.
The foundation of our survival. We must bear in mind that this country relies entirely on agriculture. We have 550,000 hectares of arable land. We are only cultivating 57%. Rice can be cultivated, and what we are importing is between 2 billion and 4 billion annually. When we can produce the rice in country, because every hectare can produce about 4 tons, meaning that all you need is about 50,000 hectares to be able to produce all the rice we are consuming, and therefore prevent the importation of rice and create foreign exchange preservation. We have the capacity to produce oil, onions, and all the things that we need that can be derived from our granules, can be transformed into oil, tomato paste, potato, we consume it internally. We consume in 2020 29 million worth of potatoes. We consume, in terms of edible oil, almost 1.2 billion. Cereals, 2 billion. So in essence, we could produce all this and have self-reliance and self-reliance.
Thank you. Mr. Farr, same question to you. What opportunities exist in the agricultural sector, and how do you intend to exploit it towards economic development?
Any country that cannot feed itself is doomed. This country is endowed with massive resources. I have visited the agriculture, and it's only 5% of the agriculture that is currently being farmed. Unfortunately, our government did not deem it necessary to visit that important resource in the 5 years of its existence. I have visited other rice fields around the country. Kuntawood, Chame, in Yanida. I have also visited Makati. All these important fields are lying fallow. What we have chosen to do is to import third-grade rice and pay very high money, a lot of money, losing a lot to the exchange rates. If only we turn to our own rice fields and invest in them, we can turn Gambia around. I have asked the women in these rice fields, what are the problems? And some of the problems are just simple problems. Leveling of the canals and make sure that the canals work. That's the only problem. Or the lack of simple basic equipment like tracers and so forth. These are things government can fix if they're serious in a few months. We are not serious about it, and that's why we are importers of food.
Your time is up, please. Thank you so much. So now we will give you opportunity to make rebuttals, and you have 45 seconds for that. We start with you, Honorable Sir.
What he has stated is the problem. For us, we are going to create a cooperative bank. A cooperative bank that will give the farmers seed, farming implements, and fertilizer to be able to produce and pay back exactly what they have taken without any interest. We are going to help the horticultural gardens to produce tomato, to produce potato, to produce all we need. And they will simply be given what they require, the water, the fences, etc., to be able to produce and pay back to the cooperative bank without any interest. We believe that in 1 year, will move more and more into self-sufficiency. But I don't think he has indicated any answer.
Thank you, Mr. San. Mr. Parr, your rebuttal in 25 seconds, please.
I don't think Mr. Salah's plan would work with all due respect. All these things would cost money, and money comes at a price. In every investment, there's a cost of funds, and that cost of funds have to come from somewhere. I am all for supporting and providing access to finance to rice growers to women, but these things have to be repaid, and they have to be paid with interest. Otherwise, the entity that is involved in running that would run into significant deficits and it would collapse. Like most socialist interventions, they collapse because they're not so very well thought out. The cost of running those enterprises should be factored into the budget.
Thank you so much. The both of you talked about the need to grow in order to meet the local consumption demands. But agriculture, what do you do to make sure that agricultural sector in the country becomes resilient in the face of climate change? We start with you, Mr. Fall, this time, and you have 90 seconds for that.
Climate change is real, and we have to deal with it. But science is far advanced, and we do know that nowadays, for instance, in rice, we don't have to use our forests to grow rice. There is the Nerika rice, which has been engendered to be able to grow in ordinary land. We should also be able to select the seeds that we use very carefully to choose those that are resilient and those that are suitable to our soils. But if we just go abroad and just bring things back home without checking their appropriateness to Gambian conditions, like is typically done in here, it's useless. I'll give you one example. Look at the ferry that was brought in here. 2 ferries. And they were not suitable for the landing sites that we have. They became useless. It's the same principle. We have to put knowledge in whatever we do. We have to put prudence in whatever we do. And we can solve this problem. Climate change is real, but we have to walk along what is available and what is permissible. And that way we will be able to beat the problems. If we just think that we could just import solutions and bring them there without tweaking them to suit local conditions, we are doomed to fail. And for us, we'll ensure that technology is going to be put into all these interventions, and that would address some of these problems.
Thank you, Mr. Fan. Mr. Salah, if I may repeat the question for you, please. What will you do to make the agricultural sector resilient in the face of climate change crisis? You have 90 seconds.
Larry has already answered the question. It has developed all sorts of varieties. You can take you to lemons. All varieties exist to be able to accommodate climate change. There is no excuse for not being able to grow sufficient rice. Because we are in fact asking others to come and take our land. And they're taking the land to produce potatoes, all these tomatoes, etc., by using our women. We are saying that will never happen again. It is those women who will be allowed to own those farms, and they will be giving the fertilizers, farming implements to produce, and then to ensure that they will own and pay back without interest. We are saying that at the central bank, you can create 2 funds. SWIFT, a sovereign wealth investment fund, which we will invest to be able to get fishing vessels to fish on our waters, and we will be able to get sovereign wealth, which you can plow back to be able to support the loans that are not interest-free. So I don't know what my colleague is talking about. What I'm saying is very concrete and it is achievable. So in essence, we, adjusting to climate change, have already started that process by creating an institution of research which we are going to strengthen, because we are going to ensure that in 2 years we will be able to feed ourselves.
Thank you very much. We now go into the voters, and we start with you, Mr. Farr, in 45 seconds.
A sovereign wealth fund is not a panacea. It is simply not. It's just an institution that houses government funds for particular or targeted investments. We have had the Agricultural Development Bank. It failed woefully. So general wealth funds can fail. They are just like state-owned enterprises that are given resources to manage. But if they are to be managed in the manner suggested by Honorable Salah, I think it's going to fail. These funds cost a great deal of money to manage, and those expenses have to be factored into the equation. Otherwise, it's like giving subsidies, free money that would, at the end of the day, sink the institution.
Your time is up. Thank you.
And we have a regulatory authority that should ensure that. So we're going to ensure that the regulatory authority does what it's supposed to do for delivery to be up to standard. It's simple as that. We have a magnificent infrastructure, modern infrastructure, but poor service delivery. We'll put that to an end. We must also bear in mind that internet use, we are saying in all communities, there must be a center for internet use provided by the community. And in that sense, all the Gambian people will be connected to the internet. That's what we are calling for. Essentially, what is important, as my colleague usually say, that the village cannot be given everything, the people should not be given everything, we should not have a people-centered government. I don't know what type of centered government the colleague is talking about. Is he talking about a money-centered government? Who owns the money? Is he going to run a state through taxation, grants, and loans? That's what the Gambian state is living on today.
This is maybe including death. These are the people we have to deal with to ensure that what happened in the Gambia from State House would not happen again. People being given poison in the name of drugs.
And so, Mr. Fowler was staying with that, I beg your pardon, and that is the issue of addressing the lapses that exist in the regulatory health policies. How would you address this, and how would you ensure that these policies that are in place, these regulatory bodies, deliver up to expectation?
I think the problem is not with the existence or lack thereof of regulatory bodies. It's a question of how do we plug that donut? How do we plug that hole dealing with traditional practitioners? The official system does not understand the traditional practice very well. We have examples in Senegal where they are embraced. Traditional practitioners are embraced and they're making efforts to bring them into the mainstream. That is what we have to do. We have to have an office that would deal specifically with that. And it has to be staffed with people who understand code words, otherwise there will be disaster.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fowler. Over now to you, Mr. Salah, for your rebuttals.
We are saying that a new government must know the nature and characteristics of the system it is inherited. First and foremost, we'll create a commission that within 3 months it will be able to identify all the gaps and make recommendations how to address them. And every recommendation given will be implemented, including our own conception of how to address the problem. We are talking about the second element he was mentioning, traditional medicine. To me, there is no traditional medicine. In fact, that is derogatory. Medicine is medicine. Why do we allow other people to call it traditional? Medical science is medical science. Anybody who has the knowledge. So all we need to do is to identify those who are really curing people.
Mr. Fowler, your time is up, I'm afraid. We'll leave it there. Mr. Fowler, your reactions, please.
I am really surprised and clearly astonished that Mr. Salah would suggest that there should not be any separation. In medical practice, there are standards and institutions that are responsible for ensuring that all sorts of treatment work and that they pass certain rules. In the traditional practice, there is no such thing. Obviously, there has to be separation. If we do not have a separation, then woe betide us. There will be so much calamity in this country, we would know what hit us. If we did not do that, then what happened in 2007 until 2017, when Jammeh claimed he could cure HIV/AIDS, would recur again, and we can do nothing to stop it.
All right, Mr. Fowler, thank you so much, and we have a final question that will stay with you. It's I beg your pardon?
No.
I'm afraid.
No. Mr. Salah has had his rebuttal.
Well,
twice.
all right. We will leave it there. I'm aware of that. And then we are moving to an original question. I'm staying with you. I saw his hand up, and I must have to listen to him and see what he had to say.
Now I'm following the time.
That's well noted. All right. So the final question, Mr. Fall. We want to know what the country's healthcare system would look like under your government.
All Gambians would have access to medical health services and quality medical health services for that matter. Every region in this country would have 2 referral hospitals, and they would have clinics dotted here and there around the country depending on population center. And believe me, we can do it. We've spent almost $1 billion by this executive in every election bid. That money could have been used to build $110 million in hospitals or clinics around the country. So it is misplaced priority. In a government that I lead, we would put the money where it must go. It must go to the health care of the people. We would build hospitals that are fit for purpose and not hospices. We would ensure that there are adequate medical doctors who would take care of the people. There is a lot of internet now in the country and abroad and in the provinces. Gambian doctors practicing abroad could also help by providing virtual consultations and would be able to help advance our medical service delivery in this country. We can do it only if we put our priorities where they should be. If we invest the money in it, and we ensure that there is insurance that covers everybody and not just a handful of people, there should be enough money in the system to help us do it.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Over now to you, Mr. Salah. How will the country's health sector look like under your government?
Well, health education will be given a priority. We'll make sure that there is negotiation with the MRC to be able to build an institution for tropical medicine, and it will be let's say, a working hospital. And that institution should be able to help build the other institutions in terms of educating nurses and doctors at a very high level. That is a priority. We also need to build up an infrastructure where we'll be able to do much investigation, much research, to be able to produce some of the drugs that we need to cure our people. So we'll be able to mobilize Gambians of competence to work in that area so that we're able to facilitate that. We'll give priority to assuming the technology that is necessary to be able to do the testing that we do in other countries. But primarily also, we'll have a primary, secondary, and tertiary phase of health, where each village will be able to have a micro health center, each district a district hospital, each region regional hospital, and they will be responsible for serving. But we will ensure that education, health education, takes place in the school system in the villages everywhere to ensure that we have preventive health and move into a very efficient curative health system, into a rehabilitative one and restoration one. That's what people should expect from us.
Thank you. Over now to Mr. Fall. 45 seconds, beg your pardon, for reactions.
Well, I don't think it is realistic to have a health center for every village in this country. I doubt whether there are hundreds of villages in this country. We simply cannot afford it. What we need to do is to have an efficient system for delivery of quality health services around the country. We should have a good network of ambulances that will ensure that people are driven to the various health centers. But to suggest that a health center for every village, I think that is promising too much that anyone can possibly deliver under this situation. Especially in a socialized healthcare system suggested by Mr. Salah, it would not work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, your reactions.
It's very clear that what I have said is that there will be a minor health center in every village, and we'll have a major health center in the bigger villages, a district hospital in all districts, regional hospitals in all regions. That's what we have said. I don't know why he's saying that that's not workable. then he wants to exclude our population from helping them. Then what type of president are you going to be? Nobody should be excluded, that's what he said. Everybody, that's what the colleague is a prominent lawyer. Section 26 of the Constitution said that there must be equal access to all services by the population. How can you exclude them?
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And then I'm coming back to Mr. Fowle. 90 seconds. We just want to deal with one important aspect that is of immense interest to the electorate, and that is how to ensure timely response to health emergencies in the country. How would your government tackle this issue?
Well, I think I have seen the reason why socialism has failed in many countries around the world, because they chew too much, they try to chew too much, and it can't work. In a system led by us, we would ensure that there are hospitals, enough hospitals dotted around the country, but we would also ensure that people in the villages would have access to these hospitals. To suggest that one can build a medical facility for every village in this country is just a fanciful dream in my view. It cannot happen. We don't have those resources. And it's absolutely unnecessary. What we can have is a system of collecting sick people and taking them to hospitals. And that we can do with a good network of ambulances. Once that is available, the problem will be solved. But to suggest that one would build, in fact, if you build the health infrastructure in those villages, you would not have the doctors. No wonder, I went to Kuntawood the other day. There was this hospital. There were no doctors. All they would have is nurses. I mean, and that is a common feature in this country. We have to be realistic. We have to operate with pragmatism and not with dogmatism or idealism. We have to ensure that we do things properly. We have to cut our coat according to our size. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Fowle. Over now to you, Mr. Sala, the same question.
Since my colleague preferred to be unfair, I will not save you. This my colleague prosecuted me in 1994 whilst I was struggling against a coup. They said I violated decree number 4, which banned all political parties from issuing any political statement. I am what? The dictator, believing in centralized power. I've said it and he's heard that this is a country with a constitution. And nobody can become president and violate that constitution. There is a judiciary. So how can you bring any system in this country other than the system of the republic? What we are debating is on policies. Since it cannot deal with the policies, it goes into that common saying that people who have no ideas, who are bankrupt of ideas, usually do, they are communists. What is a communist? Where has communism existed? Communism is a country without a state. It's a stateless country that has never existed in this world. So when you talk about Soviet Union, it's a government. Look at our manifesto. We are talking about monarchs establish what you call systems that coerce people. And we are going to eliminate that state and create the cooperative state.
All right, Mr. Saddam, sticking to my earlier mentioned question, how you would ensure, a Doyle-led government would ensure timely response to health emergencies across the country. It is a personal concern.
Well, thank you very much. That is the key issue. We are saying each village should have a health center. Who can say that you cannot train? We have already trained traditional bar attendants. Who cannot train those attendants so that the death that we are suffering in the villages from women being pregnant and not being able to deliver, who says that cannot be done? Who can say that you can train people in the use of all those things where you can test hypertension and diabetes and help manage it until the person can get to a hospital? We are saying force aid hospitals in the village. You go to, and if they are bigger hospitals, If there are bigger villages, then it should be a major one, so bigger infrastructure, more people trained.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. Over now to Mr. Fal for your reactions.
I am surprised at the personal attack on me by my senior, Mr. Sala. Maybe he misunderstands the role of a prosecutor with the role of a clerk. When Mr. Sala was prosecuted, I had just graduated from law school. I had just come to the country. I was not a lawyer. I was just holding a briefcase for the lawyers in the office. But I'm happy that Mr. Sala mistook me for the prosecutor. Maybe I must have dressed very well. But
all right. You have 4 seconds to go.
Yeah. Let me leave it at that. Some things are better not answered.
All right. Thank you so much. And I'm starting with you again, Mr. Sala. The issue of capacity building in terms of training healthcare personnel in the country and equipping them with the requisite skills and knowledge is also dominating the discourse in the country. What would a Doyle-led government do to address this gap?
We have seen the effort that was made to try to address the gap in terms of teachers by having in-service training and helping those people at least to have basic service delivery so that they'll be able to render services at different levels. And we build up the system, the structure, so that more doctors will be needed at the district level and then more doctors at the regional level. But you would have those who can manage the illness. It is managing the illness so that it will not get worse. If you go up country now, the people will tell you, we put our pregnant women on horse carts or donkey carts before we arrive at Bansang, that maybe we find at the hospital, the person is dead. How do you address that? So this is what we are saying, that you must have an infrastructure suited for each level and train those people to be able to address them. And you can do so through in-service initially, as you really train those who are going to be specialized. That is how we are going to address it. We are going to study not only that, we have said that we must maintain a record of the major illnesses that are found in the villages so that in buying drugs, you will be specialized on handling those major illnesses. So everything must be documented. A database must be kept. And that's how we intend to handle the health problems by identifying what they are and how to address them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And then Mr. Fal, just hold on a moment. I would just like to remind the audience that we had mentioned a rule here that laughter or any sort of that will not be entertained while the arguments are ongoing. And then we just want to urge all of you to abide by that as we move on with this debate. Thank you so much. Mr. Fal, the initial question was how you would ensure a highly skilled and trained healthcare sector in the Gambia.
I had identified 3 different levels. You would have the specialists, you have the general practitioners and the caregivers. We need to ensure adequate training for people of all categories. We should also engage the traditional practitioners. I know I had once contracted jaundice. While I was in university, I came to Gambia. I was not treated at the hospital. I was referred to a woman in Macau who would give you a substance and it would immediately clear it. These are type of people who we can also embrace and bring them into the fold. But we must have standards in order to ensure that people are not being poisoned instead of being treated. We could identify a network of traditional practitioners whose treatments can be certified through medical aids. They are incorporated into the system. We also have to put in massive resources to train people, especially at the lower level, the caregivers and the first responders. We need to ensure that the first responders they have all the equipment and the know-how of handling patients. A lot of stroke patients in this country die simply because the first responders don't know how to handle them. We have to invest massively in that. And then train as many people as possible. We now have a medical school, we should be able to do it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fal. Mr. Sala, your reactions, please.
Well, he misinterpreted what I was saying when I said that we should abandon the word traditional medicine. Because whatever cures is science. But they have not gone to university, they have not gone to training, so they are paramedical services. And there should be registration where at the level of the state, they will provide a unit at the medical services that will be able to assess people who will apply, check what they have done, confirm, and then register them as paramedical. That's what we are saying. And that's what we are going to do. We are not asking anybody who can cure anybody to be excluded. We are saying, let's create a database scientifically to know whether they are really curing people. Why would we talk about Gambia?
Your time is up, please. Thank you. Over now to you, Mr. Fowler. Reaction.
Well, I am glad that Mr. Sam Salva embraces my ideas. There have to be standards. We cannot just allow every Tom, Dick and Harry perambulating around the country willy-nilly, working as clerks or charlatans claiming to be doctors. We have a lot of them in this country. So we have to have standards for traditional practitioners, ensure that their services do work, and we have a system of registration to ensure that they are also monitored and supervised. If we do not do that, what happened in this country would happen again. People would come and pose as doctors who can cure certain ailments, and they don't know anything about what they are doing. In order to avoid that, we have to have good oversight and proper standards.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fowler. And the final question now, I would start with Mr. Sala. We've talked about your policies, toilet policies, what you would do to ensure that the country is quality and accessible alongside affordable healthcare service delivery in the country. But one issue that is a burning issue in the country currently is the issue of maternal mortality. We want to know when voted into office, it's a priority, what your government would do to address this situation.
Women are carrying two burdens, burden of production and burden of reproduction. If you do not protect them, you are sacrificing the very future of a nation. That is going to be a priority. That's why in manner of government we are saying we must even have in cabinet equal number of men and women so that women will take care of the major problems that this country is going to face. We are going to ensure that at the level of the village, the competence must be there, prenatal, to take care of that woman so that she will be freed from the farm before birth, childbirth. Freed from the farm, just like free from offices 9 months after childbirth. We are saying there will be 3 months leave for those who are working in our sectors, both public and private, and 9 months leave after birth. So this is to protect women and mothers from the type of illness and from the type of death that they are suffering now. That is our policy. It's already in our manifesto. Read it. Very progressive. How we will accompany both father and mother will accompany the child who is the future of the nation so that the nation will protect that child and protects its future. By ensuring that even after 9 months, the father will be given half work so that they'll be able to accompany their child, and 6 months leave to accompany their child to nursery school.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. Over now to Mr. Fowler. A government under your watch, the priorities it's taken many, but the issue under the health sector regarding maternal death is of a burden. What would you do to address this?
I am glad that you have repeated the question, because this is about maternal mortality. And the problem, in order to address this, we have to know what the problem is. Where does the problem lie? The problem lies with lack of access to health, to the necessary health facility, timely access. The other problem is lack of facilities such as gloves and things that would help the caregivers to ensure safe delivery. The other problem is the lack of blood. The other problem is the care that is needed as immediately or after delivery. The other the biggest problem is the infections that happen. All these things cause death. We have to invest heavily in order to be able to deal with these problems. In order to deal with the problem of access, increased supply of facilities and increased supply of ambulances could help reduce that problem. Now many women die because they are carried on horsebacks or motorcycles and they deliver on the way, and a lot of them die. If you have ambulances located strategically and they are abundant, that will solve the problem. Gloves. Why should anybody die because there are no gloves? I can't understand for the life of me why this government must allow that to happen. Blood. We must invest heavily in a blood bank and prepare for every woman who is about to deliver and ensure that all the things we need are there.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fall. Mr. Salah, your reactions?
Well, we have emphasized that at the village level is where we will start to protect the woman and the child. And at the district level, the facilities are there to be able to deal with difficult birth. And at the regional level, facilities are there. So how to manage the birth at the village level is crucial, that's primary. All the knowledge must be there for that birth attendant to help that mother. And the knowledge will be given to that birth attendant in every village. Then the ambulance will be there, ready to move the person to the district hospital with immediacy to be able to deal with difficult childbirth. That is how we intend to lower child infant.
Thank you, Mr. Salah. Over now to you, Mr. Fall.
I really wonder how a village birth attendant would be able to solve the problem of lack of blood for the woman who really needs one. I don't know how the village woman would be able to deal with the issues of infection. You see, what we need, these village birth attendants would be just mere stopgap measures. We are talking about solutions and not stopgap measures. Ambulances or health facilities should be available and accessible to pregnant women so that they would receive professional care as and when they need them. And these stopgap measures are not a solution. Thank you.
Mr. Fall, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. That brings an end to this fourth thematic area. We'll go for a quick break. It's 5 minutes. We'll be back here to continue the last thematic session. Thank you all.
It is December 4th, and it is happening at a time that the pandemic is visibly receding. We need to build or rebuild the economy. How are you going to build or rebuild the economy, and to do so in a resilient way, given how vulnerable our economy is, particularly to external shocks?
Forbes magazine has listed Gambia as second to last country for worst to do business in the world. It means we beat only Chad, which is a country at war. It means to say that this is the most terrible place to do business. Are we surprised that foreign direct investment is not coming here? Are we surprised that foreign direct investment is massively and heavily going into Senegal? Because we are doing things badly, I intend to change that and ensure that we have a business-friendly environment that would allow people to do business free of the massive corruption that impedes business in this country. We would ensure that we look at our tax laws again and simplify them and ensure that there is greater collection of taxes than is happening today. There are far too many loopholes and very lax enforcement. We will ensure that we digitize our financial system, insist on greater transparency, and that will reduce corruption. We would ensure fiscal discipline in this country. There is a lot of waste going on, and we would issue diaspora bonds to help us finance some of the projects that would help spur economic growth.
Mr. Salah, the same question to you, please, sir, in 90 seconds.
The economy has three elements. Agriculture contributes just about 19% of GDP. Industry, 20%. Services, 55%. The rest, all the sectors. If you look at the agriculture, we can produce all the rice we need, spending 2 billion to 4 billion annually just to import rice. We're spending 29 million on potatoes, and we can produce the potatoes here. 108 million on onions, we can produce the onions here. In terms of the edible oil, we are actually importing 1.2 billion. Our grams can be transformed into edible oil. We can produce it here. To just cereals, we are investing 2 billion in importation. We can produce it here. Milk products, 500 million. We can produce it here. So everything that we are importing, leading to in 2017, when the Barrow government came into being, to 24 billion deficit, are things that we can produce. We are going to focus on that. Expand the productive base, and in that sense, we will reduce the...
If elected president, how would you strike a balance to ensure that people have a place to live, shelter, but also we have land to produce? We start with you, Mr. Farmer. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you very much. This is an important question because there are two competing issues here. There's a significant deficit in housing in this country, and that has driven the price of rent and the conditions at which houses are rented. Nowadays, you have to pay 6 months in advance, and it's very, very expensive. To find housing is difficult. So real estate companies should be encouraged in this country. But at what price? The problem we have in this country is the lack of planning. There used to be a department of planning or urban planning that would plan all developments. There should be zoning of places that should be residential and places that should be farming. But in this country, there is no such planning going on. So people convert farmlands into residential places. And with that, there is now becoming a big tussle, big competition between housing and farming. And this lack of planning is not affecting us only in that area. The other problem is going to be between sedentary farmers and herders, because there is no planning outlining where what stops and where the other should start. It's a total mess in this country which needs to be fixed.
Thank you. Mr. Salah, my apologies, that's been brought to my attention in the previous question. Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to make the rebuttal in 45 seconds and also to answer this question in 90 seconds.
It is what 48 that the colleague is saying, that when it's being given free of charge, we all know that the 23 billion that is going to be provided for the budget 2022 is coming from the tax money of the people. People contribute. ID card. This indirect taxation, every time they buy goods anywhere, they are contributing to the government budget. And they are entitled to receive something and they are being deprived. That's what they are saying. Therefore, you must provide a sum that will provide them, that is investing their tax money back to production so that they will be able to produce in order to ensure that we eradicate poverty. That is the poverty eradication scheme, by creating a cooperative bank so that everybody who wants to work will be able to earn income from the cooperative bank and be able to be productive. That's what we are saying. So it is essential for us to bear in mind that you are not giving any free money to a population which is contributing to the productive, to the taxation.
Thank you. And now to answer the question, the main question.
Begin with that. That's what we've said in our manifesto. That is the first thing. So that you can have spatial planning to know where every structure should be. And to ensure that government does not sell the land of the people. That it is used for the people. We are saying there should be low-cost housing. It should be a primary consideration. And that is what we're going to give a primary consideration. In essence, we will not allow any sale of public land. We are talking about the utility of that public land to ease the suffering of our people. What we now have is because of policy. And that is the policy we intend to change by ensuring that we have urban planning, rural planning, and ensure that planning is done to improve the living conditions of our people. In other countries, you could not see any demarcation between the country up and the cities. By virtue of the implementation of the principle of proportional development. Balanced and proportional development requires that government ensures development through the energies of the people. We are saying all the villages contribute rates, etc., and it goes to the council. We are going to stop that. We'll ensure that each village has a village treasury where all rates paid, all licenses paid, all duties will go into that treasury for their annual act of development.
Thank you, Mr. Sami. Mr. Fowler, this is time for rebuttals. 45 seconds, please.
Mr. Salah's policies are very socialist in nature. And to put them in a capitalist environment, they're going to fail. Government has a system of allocating resources, and all resources are pulled together and allocated. We can have a system of favoring those that are least developed and giving them more money. But to suggest that what they are supposed to pay is to be retained by them is simply a socialist policy that has no place in a capitalistic environment. But let me say this. We do agree a Coke bank is useful, but also it has to be run on.
Your time is up. Mr. Salah, you're the one.
Well, let my colleague go to the villages, to the towns, and look at the roads, the conditions of the people, the conditions of the market. And they are collecting rates, licenses, duties from all these people. But in essence, what is collected is put at the center, at the area councils, and the people will never see it again. We are saying now the people must participate in their development. That's what we call participating in development. So those people now, in their villages, will control whatever income is coming from the village in the village treasury. And then at the national level, we'll have equalization grant, where annually all regions, all municipalities will be given equalization grant to support the projects in the villages. That's what we are saying. What is socialist?
Thank you, Mr. Salah. Thank you, Mr. Fowler, for answering the question. I now have the pleasure to hand over to my co-moderator who will take us through the next phase of this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sekou. Next thematic area is education. My question goes to you, Mr. Fowler. Strides have been made.
Point of order. My understanding was, if I go first this time, then Mr. Salah will go the next time. I have gone first on 2 occasions. But not that I'm complaining, it's just to so that we are clear what is going on. But I am happy to answer.
We are clear. We are going back and forth. We are doing the reverse, so we understand the procedure. So you are fine. So this one starts with you.
So I start 3 times.
You start.
No problem.
Not start all the time, but you're starting this time. And then we'll start with Mr. Salah the second time.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much. Right. Next thematic area is education. And there have been strides made in this sector to ensure that it is improved. But the need to address the issue of improving quality and affordable education in the country still remains to be addressed. We want to know, under a government led by you, what strategies would you implement to restructure the country's education sector that would address the issue of quality and affordable education in Gambia?
For me, I believe that the problems in the education sector are: 1, the foundation is often shaky because there is no quality there. The second is we are not teaching people, we are not training people to become what we need to develop this society. We are not training the appropriate people in the appropriate areas. That is the biggest problem. The third is the quality of the people who are entrusted with the responsibility. And we have to fix all that. The first one, we have to ensure early start education. Here, people start at 6. During my time, there was this policy that we even start at 8. I think it's a fundamental mistake. The children should start early in kindergarten, and they should be taught in literacy and numeracy. And once we have that right, the foundation will be very strong. You take it to the next levels. We have to ensure that there is vocational and technical training in this country. All of us can't be lawyers and doctors. This is what we need. We need painters, we need mechanics, we need builders, we need road builders. These are the kinds of people, technically skilled people and STEM people. That's what we need in order to develop this country. If we don't invest in those, this country would be doomed. We also need quality professionals with good qualifications to teach these things. Otherwise, it will fail.
Mr. Fowler, thank you so much. Mr. Salah, under a Doyle-led government, help us understand how you would restructure the country's education sector in a manner that will address the issue of quality and affordable education in the Gambia.
Development is about mindset and knowledge. We do not have the type of system fit for our type of society. Independent country that should have attained self-determination. We need self-determined and self-reliant educational system that will build a self-reliant and self-determined people who can ensure that we become independent and totally run our own affairs. That is what is the first fundamental problem. We do not have any direction. And we are going to inject direction in this. And we are going to create an apex institution, an academic of social, natural, science and humanities, and get the professors to sit down, look at our educational system from the early childhood all the way to the tertiary level. Then we'll build up the system, build up its cadre, build up its material, knowledge material that we should push ourselves. We're not even producing our own books. And we are spending millions importing. That is what we're going to put to an end by creating our own sources. We are saying, first and foremost, education must be free up to the 12th grade. The Constitution now says that education at the basic level must be free, compulsory, and accessible. We must ensure that we implement that immediately. From grade 1 to grade 9 will be free education and all the institutions will be there. We'll also go...
Right, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. And then Mr. Fowler, coming back to you, it's the rebuttal session. You heard what Mr. Salah said. If you have any comments, you can do so now.
The solution is not in a study. The solution is to do the obvious. Equality is very poor. We start very late. We are not teaching things, the things they need to become very productive members of our society. In this country, if you ask for all type-skilled workers, they are all foreigners. Tailors are foreigners, drivers are foreigners, masons are foreigners, electricians are foreigners, fit mechanics are foreigners. We need to train Gambian in these things. That's what we need. These are the people who will develop this country. We don't need to carry out any studies to know that there is a big deficit of this type of people in this country. This is what we need. Early start, good education, step.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Fowler. Mr. Salah, over to you now.
We are supposed to run a government which requires policies, instruments, and programs. You must do study. Get the recommendation to implement. That's how government works. Government is not just some hypothetical situation. You just get up and say, this is the problem and this is the solution. That's why they don't have a solution. We are saying, for the issue of the educational system up to grade 12, we want it to be free. Grade 1 to 9, immediate. Grade 9 to 12, a study to see how it can be done. When they finish school, 1 year national service to be get training in any sector to get a knowledge base. And then the cooperative bank will give you the money to be able to run the business that you want to establish. That's how we want to establish the system.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Salah. And stay with you. We're moving on to the next question. This time, not you, Mr. Fowler. Mr. Fowler. The next question, you have 90 seconds to answer this. And then, having listened to what you've said, we want you to help us understand the practical educational strategies a Doyle-led government would design to address the mismatch between educational realities in the country and the job market.
There is a very thin job market. We're saying we must create the job market, not expect to fit people into it. Fundamentally, the nation must take care of its children. Therefore, early childhood up to grade 12, we aim to make it free, accessible, and having all the quality necessary to deliver a Gambian child capable of delivering to the nation. That's what we intend to do. And we are going to also build up Not just ending the education system, which will be basic education, giving you all the characteristics of knowledge of yourself, your internal body, all elements of yourself, your psychology, and eventually the needs of the nation. And also, because you're going to consolidate a democratic society, from those grades you start to learn how to really decide and lead by allowing those students to choose some among themselves to help teachers to maintain those schools. So they will learn democratic participation in the education system. We are saying it's not only that, but we will give you interest-free loan to be able to run any institution you want to run in order to be able to be productive. So we're going to lead education to productive, not only a market that is there, but so that you can also be self-employed. That's how we intend to build our education system.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Saleh. You still have 14 seconds to go.
Yes, it means that not only are we training them to be productive, which is always what people say, but to love country and people. That is how we're going to end crime and all this discord that is in society. We're going to create a new Gambia through the education system.
All right, thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Fal. Your implement to address the mismatch between the educational training and actual jobs in the country.
This is precisely the point I made earlier. We have to train people in the things that we need to build this country. We need mechanics, we need builders, we need air-conditioned workers, we need plumbers, we need technically skilled people, and that is what is fundamentally lacking in this country. I have been to Dingirai, there is no Gambian plumber. I have been to Basse. Most of the builders are not from Gambia. If you come to Kelserin area, most of the builders are Senegalese. Why is that the problem? Because we are not training technically skilled Gambians to build this country. That is what we have to change. Vocational education training for Gambians, that is what we need. We also need to reorganize our education to get it to focus on STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is what we need in order to transform this country. Go to the university. The bulk of the students, with the free education that is being talked about, the bulk of the students are studying what? Management, literature, history. We don't need that to develop the country. We need scientists. We need technically skilled people. And to say that they will make the education free, well, they forgot that a lot of the educational institutions in this country are privately owned. I have the statistics here. If you look at the number of...
I'm afraid, Mr. Fal, your time is up, but in fact, I have a follow-up question to that. We will stick to that. We have provision for that. We have 45 seconds to answer that, if you may wish to incorporate what you're about to say in that. You've mentioned the STEM and TVET education system. We want to know, under your government, if you voted into office, how you would effectively explore this avenue.
Government has to put resources into that. And that is all it takes. There is a lot of wastage in government. We can cut that waste and get resources that could be put into that. In fact, government gives about $2.2 million in subsidies every year. Subsidies to institutions that are not performing. That money could have been put into that. Government is also losing $2.5 billion on tax duty waivers, which could have come to be used for other more productive purposes in the economy. We can get a lot of money from those things to invest in a re-engineered education that would help provide the needs of the country.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Salah. Reactions? Comments?
It is very clear that the system we are talking about, each village having a village treasury, being able to invest in education, in health, in infrastructure, and training those people resident in the village to be able to maintain all those services is the answer. To talk about separating science, natural science, social science, is really a misconceiving of what knowledge is. Knowledge is holistic. People must know how to govern themselves. This management of communities is one of the fundamental instruments of ensuring development. So if you do not have good managers in hospitals, in schools, in roads, everywhere there is management. And there...
All right, Mr. Salah, thank you so much. I'm afraid 45 seconds off. Mr. Fal.
I am a bit surprised. It looks like Mr. Salah is talking about controlled societies. This is it's very Soviet style money. You control things from the center, and you control everything to the minutest detail. That is not what we are about. This is not a communist or a socialist society. This is a capitalist society. Yes, there is a bit of control at the center, but it's not so stringent control that people in the villages are not free to do what they want. But anyway, the issue was centered mainly about education, right? And for us, a government led by us, we would make sure that we make a lot of savings from government waste and plow it back into education. Instead of making education entirely free, which I think we cannot do, simply because a lot of the schools are private and they need to operate on profit basis. We choose scholarships and so on to ensure that the right type of education is provided. This is not a country that just needs general knowledge. It's not general knowledge that we are chasing after. We are chasing after technically skilled people who can build this country. We are not looking to have people who just theorize and theorize. We want people who can build this country. That is what we are.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fal. Over to now to you, Mr. Sala. You have 90 seconds to answer this question. Under a Doyle-led government, how would we perceive accessible and reliable education in the country?
Clearly, we have said there is basic education where you are taught both nature and society to be able to see what is relevant to be able to ensure development. That is basic education. And it includes science and technology. So everybody must have that accessible to them. But at the level of grade 12, then you go into a practical process of being a part of a national service to be able to get training anywhere, and you will be supported by government so that in 1 year you will learn all the skills that you need and then move into the job market. This is what we are talking about. We are saying that the education system at the village level must also be the concern of the villages. The technical part of knowledge will be acquired directly through practice. It means that the village will know all the infrastructure that should be built and involve the villages in that process. So it is very strange that somebody is talking about that centralization. We are saying area councils are centralized. And they should be decentralized by passing on that treasury to the village so that they can have a village treasury because they have village development fund. The gentleman is talking about centralization. It's not centralization. We're talking about decentralization. I guess they are lost in terms that they have been indoctrinated all these years, and our intelligence here are precisely indoctrinated.
Mr. Sala, in terms of when I'm staying with you, you still have 45 seconds. I have a follow-up question as to what you would do to ensure reliable and accessible education in the country. What cuts across?
We are saying that the state budget is meant to raise Gambian children. Nothing more is more important than education. We will invest in it to ensure that it is free up to the grade 12 and will give you knowledge of science and knowledge of society so that you develop to be a holistic thinker who can actually serve in management, in hospitals, in any area of life, because there must be a division of labor in society that will address our needs and aspirations. We must prepare all our people for that division of labor based on their choice. We are hearing indoctrination from our gentlemen. I think they are lost now.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sala. And then the initial question was, I had a follow-up. The initial question was, what would a government under your watch do to ensure reliable and accessible education in the country?
I have said that we should ensure that we have the kind of education that this country needs for its development. We don't need theoreticians, we don't need historians, we don't need people with long qualifications in literature and so forth. What we need are technically skilled people to build this country. I'm not saying that all those courses are irrelevant. No, I am saying that our focus to to develop this country should be on those technical skills. And the government led by me would put all the resources necessary to train Gambians in those skills, so that those technical jobs would be done here by Gambians.
Right. Mr. Saleh, any reaction?
It is important to see the type of mentality that is developing in the continent, which has moved us backwards. Essentially, the human being has aesthetic values, must also be scientific in order to go to scientific problems, must also have knowledge of management so that society will be managed on a democratic basis. I started by saying you can even educate the children to participate in democracy so that they can elect their leaders in the class based on the qualities that are necessary for the leader. So from a very early age, you are not showing democracy. The type of system they're talking about is a system where there is no value, there is no direction, and we're going to put that one there. We entirely want a society that is holistic and organized, and our educational system will be designed to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Finally, reaction.
The thing is, I am sometimes at a loss. The ideas that I hear are, yes, strange to me. Perhaps, yes, one could say that we are brainwashed in Western ways. I could equally say that maybe my senior, Honorable Sal, is brainwashed in Soviet ways, in socialist ways. And that is why he's coming up with all these ideas. Ideas that are so socialist in their nature that they could hardly work in this country. For all intents and purposes, this is a capitalist society.
All right, gentlemen, that brings us into this second thematic area, and in fact it's taking us to a break. We'll take a quick break, and like we said earlier, if you so wish to sit, you can do so. When we come back, we'll continue to debate. Mr. Teacher. It is another Carabajara International Conference Center in Vigilo. We have two presidential candidates here with us this evening. Mr. S.R. Maikau is an independent presidential candidate. We have Mr. Khalifa Saleh. He is the standard bearer of the People's Democratic Organization Independence and Socialism, PDRS. And we want to urge the audience here to kindly put your phones on silence to avoid interruptions during the session. And at this juncture, we are moving on to our third thematic area. And I want to hand over to my co-moderator, Sebi Jana. What would you say?
Thank you, Madam Co-Moderator. We continue with the debate. And now, the topic to address is infrastructure. And I'll have Rana open the question, starting with Mr. Sam. If elected president, which areas of infrastructural development will you privatize? You have 90 seconds to answer the question, please.
That's a question that is very leading. What we intend to do is to run a nation based on self-reliance and development. We need transportation that will ensure that goods, services, and people are transported with speed and efficiency throughout the country. So we are going to create a public regulatory authority that deals with public works. And their role is to study all the infrastructure in the country within 1 year and see how to prepare a proper maintenance service for maintaining what we now have and also move towards building what we don't have. As it stands, 27% of our roads are built. The rest, not turned. We have to work on that. And our system is very clear. The national budget must also be decentralized. Somebody is talking about communism. I'm emphasizing decentralization. It should be decentralized so that all regions will have equalization rights. And the regions will plan their roads and they will be funded. And government will give support to be able to do that. We will create a sovereign national wealth which is the sovereign wealth fund, that will be able to invest, to be able to generate more resources to invest on the roads, to invest in river transport by building wharves.
Thank you, Mr. Sir. Over to you, Mr. Fan, your priorities with respect to infrastructural development. You have 90 seconds.
A policy of decentralizing revenue collection and generation is doomed to fail. It's in complete opposite with our national reality. That you go to some of these places, they cannot even generate $10,000 in a month. That is the reality. So we have to support them from the center. That is what we have to do. What we need to do to ensure that funds reach these places is to have equitable distribution of national resources. I am opposed to $667 million being sent to the office of the president to do nothing for us other than travel or luxury travel. That money should have been used for the development of the provinces. But the approach taken by my uncle here, Honorable Sala, would not work. To develop our infrastructure, we have to be very serious and mark out this country and strategically identify those roads that would connect places to places. I agree, rejuvenation of river transport is essential, but we have to make sure that we have a network that ensures efficiency and effective distribution of goods and services and free movement of the people. That's what we need.
Thank you, Mr. Fan. We now go into governance. We'll come back to you, Mr. Sala. 35 seconds.
We need good roads, we need wharves, we also need an airport in Pasay that will be able to cover our sub-region. We need to connect the ports, the development of the bridge, with a ports facility so that we'll be able to serve southern Senegal. We need to build an economy. We're not talking about sharing pittance. We are saying, look at what's happening. The type of people he's talking about will come and establish plantation, taking from our people. We are saying this sovereign wealth fund and the bank will be able to help the village to be able to have banana plantation, produce, and put it in their village treasury for their village development. So they will develop and build a capital base of self-reliance so that they will continue to provide infrastructure.
Your time is up.